Hello, DFS community. Welcome into the Week 16 edition of one of the most accurate DFS shows in the industry. This is episode number 62 of the Adjusted Line Play Report, where we take a deep dive into the play in the trenches to determine game script and player outcomes. This show is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. You can find myself over on Twitter at ToddZilla1337, and you can find Zilla Fantasy Elite over on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. All right, folks, we're going to give a very brief Adjusted Line Play Report. Happy holidays to everybody. I hope you can enjoy this particular time with your family and friends and have a good time, but we're going to get out a little bit of an abbreviated Adjusted Line Play Report just because I will be traveling here for the holidays and can't spend a ton of time this morning getting all of that done. So I want everybody to be aware of that. And then next week, too, with the New Year's, I have some plans there. So probably won't have much outside of the original Twitter thread on Tuesday when I update all of the information and provide that for you over on Twitter. So you can expect that again next week, probably similar to this week, where very unlikely to get out a video, especially next week. I'm for sure out of office, I guess, if you will, starting on Thursday, so I won't have anything on Thursday. All right, so abbreviated Adjusted Line Play Report. We're just going to look at big picture for both teams, kind of give a brief snippet of the Vegas game total and any slates that they're on, and kind of go from there. So we got a 2-game Saturday slate, one on Saturday afternoon and then one Saturday evening. Cincinnati 3-point road favorites here in a lowly 38 Vegas game total. It's the second best game total on the 2-game slate here. Cincinnati's second highest. Team implied total, Pittsburgh third highest. Looking at the Cincinnati side, they're a little bit below average on the pass protection and the pass DVOA. Probably nothing crazy here, but they're going to probably need to get the ball out a little bit quicker, and they're maybe going to struggle a little bit to get the ball out with Chase hurt. Really looking good for Boyd. What looks a little bit better for them is the run blocking, so it's pretty even up there, number 14 versus number 15. That looks to be how they're going to be the most effective against this Pittsburgh defense. Don't be shocked if you see Joe Mixon not only with some additional targets in this game with Chase out, but really stepping up there and getting tons and tons of volume here against this Pittsburgh defense. On the Pittsburgh side, pretty even up here on the pass protection side, so don't be shocked if you see Pittsburgh move the ball a little bit better than you're used to via the air. I know it's not been great this season, so George Pickens and Deontay Johnson certainly could have a decent game. Pat Freiermuth, I think Cincinnati does give it up quite a bit in the air to some of these teams, so keep that in mind. Pittsburgh run game, though, looks like the better of the two options, pretty significantly in the favor of Pittsburgh's offense there, so don't be shocked if you see Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris have solid weeks. Getting on to the Saturday night football game, we have Buffalo going into the Chargers as 12-point road favorites. Give the standard thing, roughly 90% of the time that there is a home underdog by 10 points or more, they do cover that spread. Not saying that they're going to win, but be shocked at how often that actually ends up going towards the home team. Anyway, it's a 44 Vegas game total. Buffalo with that 28 team implied total is number one in the slate. Chargers there at 16, so pretty big favor there of Buffalo. Looking at Buffalo, they're really good on offense. They're top 5 across the board. Pass protection, Chargers might apply some pressure here to Buffalo, but Buffalo is very explosive. Chargers give up a lot of explosive plays. With that being said, I would not be shocked to see Gabe Davis finally have a solid week here, but really with them being under a little bit more pressure, maybe this is more like a Stephon Diggs and Kincaid type of week where they're dumping it off. Wouldn't be shocked, too, to see Cook get a few extra targets if they're under pressure and be really explosive with those particular pass plays. And then the run game looking very, very juicy for James Cook here. You know, he's just been crazy. I don't want to use the pun that he's been cooking, but he has really been really dominant here down the stretch, and it looks like another really good game for him, where not only if he's getting passes and he's going to be explosive, that run game looks like he's really going to dominate. So I can see why Buffalo has a 28 team implied total here. On the Chargers side, it's pretty even up on the pass protection here. Unfortunately, they got Easton Stick there, so and we have Keenan Allen ruled out. Probably not going to be moving the ball particularly great here against Buffalo. And then the run game looks to be really, really poor there. So don't be shocked if you see Eckler with another sub 10-point performance here. Not looking like he's going to do anything in the run game. He's going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting in the pass game, and that doesn't look like a great matchup. So those are the Saturday night games. Getting into the 9-game main slate here. Sunday early, Indianapolis going into Atlanta. Atlanta 2.5-point favorites now. They actually, on Tuesday, were about 2-point underdogs. I'm not sure where all that money is coming from and why it's going to Atlanta, but keep that in mind. Getting into the Indianapolis side, they're looking really good in the pass protection here versus the run blocking. Atlanta actually, green in the run blocking or run stopping units. They should get Jonathan Taylor back, but really, don't be surprised if they're getting stopped more than you'd expect this bad Atlanta defense, in quotes, to do. It looks like Indianapolis, if they're going to be moving the ball, it's going to be via the air. They did get everybody back. I know we had a scary thing there with Michael Pittman, but he did clear concussion protocol and will be playing in this game. Would not be shocked to see Indianapolis not only pushing the pace down here, being super fast, but being very explosive in that pass game, which is probably going to have to push Atlanta to throw more. Looking at the Atlanta side, it's not looking super good. So Indianapolis, pretty good at generating sacks. Atlanta does give it up. It's probably going to lead to some more underneath stuff. Pass DVOA number 13 for Indy's defense, 23rd for Atlanta's offense. Again, in the favor of Indianapolis's defense. They're probably going to have to get the ball out quickly in Atlanta, which is going to favor some of the dump-offs to the running backs and tight ends. Indianapolis does give it up pretty extensively with how they run defense to the tight end position, so don't be shocked if you see Jonnu Smith with a really good game. My own underdog fantasy team could use Kyle Pitts having a monster game as well. He's the unique one that I have in the semifinals, and if he blows up in this game, I could be making it to the finals with the chance for $75,000. So I would very much enjoy a nice tight end week from Kyle Pitts against this Indy defense. Anyway, Atlanta probably going to be moving the ball better on the ground against this Indy defense. It's pretty even up there, and I think they got a stud there. And Bijan and even Tyler Algier seems to be pretty decent at the run game. Atlanta does play pretty fast, so don't be surprised if this 45 Vegas game total, with the way that this is matching up, ends up pushing 50. I don't mind the over in this particular matchup with both teams playing pretty quick. Green Bay and Carolina. We have Green Bay going into Carolina, 4-point road favorites, a lowly 37.5 Vegas game total. Green Bay on offense looks like they'll be humming on the pass game and better than average or better than they have been in the run game. So keep that in mind. I do like Jordan Love in this particular situation. Carolina, on paper, it's going to show red because they don't give up a lot of pass game points, but that's really because they suck and people just run the ball on them. And they've been really terrible in the run defense, so that's part of the reason why Carolina's pass protection doesn't seem very good. But Green Bay, very explosive. Dontavian Wicks, very good dart throw here this week, especially if Christian Watson can't go. Jaden Reed's a little banged up. He might not play, so keep those things on your radar. That pass game for Jordan Love could be very, very good here. Tucker Kraft, dart throw in tight end land. Carolina on offense, pretty poor here across the board, but fortunately for them, Green Bay's defense is really bad, so don't be shocked looking at these DVOAs if Carolina's offense actually looks a little bit more competent than you'd perhaps think. Don't be shocked if this is Bryce Young's best game of the year at home against this Green Bay defense. Otherwise, it's kind of been the Chuba Hubbard show. They're just kind of running out the clock is what you hear on the season due to them just being so poor and probably not just wanting to get through the season. They've been running the ball way more than you would expect given their game situation. So keep that in mind. Cleveland and Houston. This one has had a wide range of stuff too, probably based off of the CJ Stroud info, but Houston was favored by 2. Now Cleveland's favored by 3 at Houston, actually, here with the 40 Vegas game total. So keep that in mind. Cleveland, pretty even up here in the pass protection category. Pass DVOA, they might find it a little bit easier to move the ball than they're perhaps used to with Houston's defense here in the red. And then the run blocking for Cleveland looks pretty bad versus Houston's top 5 unit here. So don't be looking at James Ford or Kareem Hunt this week in any sort of stuff. I know you've probably been scraping by with some of those plays in the past, but if you can avoid them this week, that looks like a pretty good play despite Cleveland being favored in this matchup. Getting into the Houston offensive side, they could be under a lot of pressure here, especially without CJ Stroud. That could be disastrous. Don't be shocked if you see Cleveland's defense with a massive amount of sacks here. We did see quite a few blunders here from the Houston quarterbacks last week. I'd expect that to continue against this Cleveland defense. And really, just based off of how good Stroud was, that DVOA matchup is the best one right now in the pass game. But I would expect Houston to be under siege in this particular matchup and not really have a very good game here for Case Keenum. Both teams do play pretty fast, so I do like both. I do like Cleveland's defense just in that sense that, hey, Houston's going to be pushing the pace, and maybe they're going to be taking tons and tons of sacks with lots of turnovers. Getting into the Seattle-Tennessee game, we do have Seattle as 3.5-point road favorites, a 41 Vegas game total, which is the 6th best on the slate. Getting into the Seattle side, they might be under pressure from that Tennessee defense. They do generate quite a few sacks, but they give up a lot of explosive plays, and Seattle's got some really explosive players, and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I wouldn't be shocked to see them have a very good game. And if they're trying to get the ball out a little bit quicker, it seems like Jackson Smith and Jigba this year is more of their underneath player, so don't discount him either. That's probably going to be how they move the ball. The run game from Tennessee, not as dominant as it has been in years past, but it's still almost top 10 unit here. Seattle not as good there. I wouldn't expect Seattle's run game to be as effective. Don't be shocked to see a awesome Geno Smith line here in this particular matchup against Tennessee. And then getting into the Tennessee side, it's actually kind of an even up one here in the pass game. Seattle's defense has been pretty bad in that pass game. We could see Tannehill, if he starts, or Levis, if he starts, have a pretty decent game. Don't be shocked if Hopkins or Chigaquankwo have a solid game in this particular matchup either. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't look like it's, an alarm game for Tennessee to be super bad. And then in the run game, they're actually a little bit above average on that Seattle defense. So don't be shocked if you see Tennessee go out there and put up some points and keep this actually close. As a road underdog, I would maybe sound that upset alert alarm that Tennessee, hey, if they can keep this close, they might end up pulling out this victory. Grossest game of the year potentially here with Washington and the Jets. The Jets are actually 3-point home favorites, if you can believe it, at this moment in time on Saturday morning. It's a 37 Vegas game total. It's in the 9th best out of 9 games. Cleveland, offensive pass protection in the red, and their offensive pass DVOA in the red. Jets have been very good in that department. I would expect Sam Howell and company to be kind of shut down in this particular matchup. This is a bad news for them. The run blocking is equally as bad. Jets, 5th and 7th there. Washington, the run DVOA at 23rd. Sounds like Brian Robinson's been ruled out. So Gibson, maybe, if you think Washington's going to be under duress and needing to get the ball out quick, it's going to be more like maybe the Gibson and Curtis Samuel show. Don't be surprised if Logan Thomas has a really good game against this Jets defense. They've been tight ends have been pretty good against them this whole season. And then on the Jets side, they've been pretty bad, but fortunately for them, Washington is probably equally as bad on defense in the pass game. So don't be shocked if you see some of these Jets players have a solid week in the pass game. I just don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but they should find it a little bit easier to move the ball than you'd otherwise expect somebody like that in this given situation. And that is the better of the matchups. Breece Hall kind of going up against a above average or average team here in the run, but the Jets have just been real bad in that department this year. Getting into a second best game total on the slate here, Detroit going into Minnesota. Dome games these days cannot be overstated, understated, whatever the case may be. 47 Vegas game total, 3-point favorites for Detroit going into Minnesota. Looking at that Detroit offense, pretty much a stalemate there in the past game. So studs eat. Don't be shocked to see Amon-Ra St. Brown have a really solid week here. Laporta could also turn out a pretty solid game. And then the run blocking, Detroit number 1, Minnesota 15. That's probably the best of their matchups is the run game, 4 versus 9. But Minnesota's truly been pretty good on defense and stopping those things. But looking like, hey, Jahmyr Gibbs type game 2, where if they're going to be running it, and that's kind of the better of the two matchups, and maybe they're under a little bit of a pressure here, you could see him have a solid week as well. On the Minnesota side, it's pretty even up on the pass game, so expect Mullins to be able to move the ball against this Detroit defense. The run game, though, not looking so great, especially in that DVOA where Detroit's number 4, Minnesota's 28th. Ty Chandler in there. Probably going to have to do most of his heavy lifting in the fantasy department within the pass game. So keep that in mind. The run blocking on a play-to-play basis, he might be getting some solid yards, but it doesn't look like they're going to be super explosive. But again, that Minnesota number was created with Alexander Madison, so who knows, Ty Chandler might be able to overcome some of the blocking that Alexander Madison could not. Next game, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, 5th best on the slate, 42 Vegas game total. Very close here with Tampa Bay being 1.5-point home favorites. Jacksonville side looks like they're going to be pretty solid on the pass game here. Tampa Bay middle of the pack, Jacksonville top 7 unit across the board. And that's probably going to be how they move the ball, because Tampa Bay has been pretty solid on run defense, and Jacksonville has been really poor in that department this entire season. So don't be shocked if Jacksonville moves the ball via the air and you have Travis Etienne with another poor performance here on a lot of volume. Tampa Bay side looks pretty even here. A little bit good for them in terms of not taking sacks, but then the past DVOA, they're a little bit below average here. Probably more of the Godwin-Evans show there. And the run game is pretty poor. Jacksonville, top 8 unit. Tampa Bay has been one of the worst run blocking units in the entire season, so keep that in mind. Tampa Bay probably going to be a lot better moving the ball via the air than the ground, but we've seen in these situations, Rachaad White just gets the volume in the pass game, and he's been pretty explosive in that pass game for Tampa Bay, so despite these poor run blocking matchups, he's seemingly produced for fantasy. Number 1 game on the main slate, Dallas and Miami, 49.5 Vegas game total. It's been bet down, I think, from 51 or 51.5 at one point this week. So Miami, 1.5-point home favorites over Dallas. Dallas on their pass protection and pass DVOA pretty even there, pretty even matchup. So don't be shocked if CeeDee Lamb has a really good game and Ferguson, and it really is kind of running through those two. And then in the run blocking, Dallas actually a little bit in a favor there, pretty even up on the run blocking, but the run DVOA +7 matchup there for them. Pollard could be decent in this, especially if Miami is getting after Dallas. Could see a few more targets go his way. On the Miami side, should have plenty of time to throw the ball based off of this. They don't take a lot of sacks. Dallas actually now 20th in adjusted sack rate. I think people have been starting to figure them out. Dallas's defense, really, when they've played top-tier teams, has been pretty poor. It's been the ones where they play the Jets and people that are just terrible Washington, where they beat up on those people and they get a lot of sacks and turnovers and a lot of pressure like that. I don't think that's going to happen against this Miami team, so don't be shocked if you see pretty high score here from Miami's offense against this Dallas defense, especially in the run game. Dallas has been, average, a little bit below average there. Miami, a top run unit. I'd expect Mostert and Achane to have very, very solid weeks this week. Arizona and Chicago. We have Arizona 4-point road underdogs here. It's the 4th best game total on the slate at 43. Chicago, 5th best team implied total at the moment. Arizona on offense, looking like they should have some time to throw the ball, but they're not going to necessarily be super explosive against this Chicago defense. Probably more of the Trey McBride show. And that's about who you are going to want to start from this Arizona team. The run blocking is not going to be terribly good. Chicago top 3 unit across the board, so I would avoid those running backs in Arizona. Chicago's offense, you should see that pass game be a lot more explosive and a lot better than you have seen in most of the games this season. Don't be shocked if you see Justin Fields have a pretty solid 250, 300 passing yards in this. Another one of those big DJ Moore weeks where he's getting 150 yards, 2 touchdowns plus, something like that. The one thing with Arizona's defense is that they are really bad on both sides of the ball. So Chicago, way better matchup in the run game, but it's a 3-headed kind of committee there for the most part. If you're going to grab anybody, it's Foreman, but if I'm interested in playing anybody here from Chicago, it's going to be Fields, number 1, Moore, number 2, and then maybe Foreman and Kmet tied for 3rd there. I'd expect Chicago to be able to move the ball at will here against Arizona and have a pretty solid fantasy output team-wise. Sunday Night Football, New England and Denver. 7-point home favorites here for Denver against New England. 35 Vegas game total is really low. Getting into New England's offensive pass protection, it's pretty even across the board here versus Denver. So however they move the ball in offense, expect it to maybe be a little bit better than they're used to. The run blocking for New England has been middle of the pack there. Denver has been pretty poor against the run this entire season, so don't be shocked if you see Zeke, not only with some extra targets based off of this pass protection stuff, but also looking at quite a few successful runs there in the run game. I don't mind him in this particular matchup, especially in an island game type situation. I would be interested in him from New England side. Denver side, pretty even there in the pass rush and pass protection categories. Don't be shocked if you see Russ have a solid game here, but I know, we could have Bill Belichick having a pretty solid week against him. Game planning, knowing Russell Wilson and how he kind of plays. Don't be shocked if he has a really poor game either. The run game looks like it's not going to be super good against New England. They've been tremendous against the run here, top 5 unit across the board, number 1 in run DVOA. So wouldn't expect Javonte Williams to be having a good game unless they're trying to get the ball out quick to some of these running backs. But we've really seen Samaje Perine be that pass catching back. All right, we have a 3-game Monday slate on Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody. We made it here. It's going to start early, the early game. Vegas going into Kansas City. Kansas City 10-point home favorites here. Kansas City, this is the 3rd best out of 3 games on the slate. Kansas City, 3rd best team implied total. Las Vegas going to be under pressure and under duress on the offensive pass game. So they're going to need to get the ball out quick and probably won't be very effective moving the ball based off of this. What they're going to do is probably lean on Josh Jacobs. Looks like that's a pretty even matchup, and I think that's a situation where he's going to come in and perform very well if he was in there, but I know we have some injuries, so Zamir White and Amir Abdullah probably your options there. Now on the Kansas City side, they should have time to throw the ball against this Vegas defense. They do have Max Crosby who can get after the quarterback, but they haven't been generating a lot of sacks. Vegas actually a top 10 unit in pass DVOA, so don't be shocked if Kansas City struggles a little bit in that department moving the ball. The run game should be pretty juicy, so if you got Pacheco and you made it through to this particular week, into the semifinals, don't be shocked if he has a monster week this week. He is on my best ball squad, so I wouldn't mind seeing him have a monster week. I think there's only 1 or 2 other teams in my pool of 18 that have him. So if he has a monster week, which is looking like it could be against this Vegas team, especially if they have that 10-point favorite, got CEH a little banged up too. I do like the run game the best out of this particular whole entire matchup. All right, Monday afternoon, New York Giants at Philly. This is the 2nd highest game total on the slate at 43. Philadelphia, highest team implied total because they are 13.5-point home favorites, 28.25 team implied total for them, barely over 14 for the Giants. On the Giants side, pass game has just been terrible. They're probably going to be under a little bit of duress, but Philly's been really giving it up to wide receivers this season, so don't be shocked if you see one of these wide receivers. I'm not sure who they even have left, but Slayton would be, if he was there, would be my best guess, or their rookie that they have, name slipping me at the moment. I think he could have a pretty solid week this week as well. The run game, Barkley, that's more of an avoid for me in this matchup. He's been kind of poor all season. That's just going to continue in this game against Philly. On the Philly side, they should be very effective, have tons of time to throw the ball. This is going to be good for their entire pass game. And then looking at the pass DVOA, they should be fairly explosive there. So one of those, maybe A.J. Brown, big weeks here. The run game looking very juicy, even better than the pass game matchup here, especially in the DVOA department. So run game could be very good here for Philly, Swift or Gainwell, whoever that might be. And then Monday Night Football. If you've seen the memes out there, this is the Super Bowl matchup, purple versus red, based off of the colors of the graphic that they put out each season, the last couple of seasons, predicting the colors of the teams that were in the Super Bowl that year. San Francisco 6-point home favorites is the number one game total on the slate. 47 Vegas game total here. 26.5 for San Francisco, 20.5 for Baltimore. On the Baltimore side, they're probably going to be under a little bit of duress there in the pass game. They're red in the pass protection. San Francisco 14th. And then pass DVOA 13 versus 4. Baltimore probably not going to be super explosive in the pass game. The run game, though, looks to be where it's at. Baltimore number 5 versus 10, and then number 1 in that run DVOA versus San Francisco's 18. I think that's how Baltimore is going to move the ball, and I think that's probably going to be their game plan, is to keep that offense off of the field, run the ball down San Francisco's throat. They got a quarterback that is the most elusive quarterback in the history of the NFL in running the ball, and I think that's just going to be how they attack this. Maybe keeping it a little bit of a slower pace overall in terms of overall game plays ran in this particular matchup. San Francisco on offense, they could be under duress here in the sack department. Don't be shocked if you see Purdy needing to get the ball out quickly. That's going to favor more of Debo and Kittle and CMC. Baltimore number 2 in the pass DVOA. So San Francisco, they might not be as explosive as you'd expect. Baltimore's got a really solid defense there. The better of the two matchups for San Francisco is actually going to be in the run game here. And Baltimore is not bad in that department either. 14th in stopping the run, 8th in the defensive run DVOA. So if San Francisco is going to be moving the ball, it's probably going to be on the backs of CMC for the most part, and Debo Samuel running and getting some of those underneath passes, and then maybe getting Kittle involved in some of these underneath quicker throws as well. Based off of this matchup, I think it should be a pretty close game. Again, I think it's going to be Baltimore keeping it within 6 of San Francisco in this matchup. Anyway, really quick adjusted line play report for you here this week, under a half hour. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a really good holiday. I hope you can win some money this holiday season. And I'll see you on Tuesday on Twitter with the update to the adjusted line play report. And that will be the only thing I'll be able to provide you on championship week. So keep an eye out for that. Appreciate y'all. Bye.